Hey guys, welcome back. Dr. T living your best life here in the Philippines. Right now I am at the old South Palms Beach. They changed the name to the Oceana. I did a walkthrough kind of review of this place before, but nothing's really changed since they changed the names. I don't know what happened there, just change of ownership, I guess. But yeah, this is one of the best beaches. I figure I'd just kind of walk along the beach and talk about our topic for today is going to be a little controversial. And if you're Filipino watching this, it's probably going to be a lot controversial. But the topic of girlfriend allowance. And I'm going to give you sort of what I think about it is, I think, irrelevant. But I'm going to give you just different schools of thought that I've heard since I've been here in the Philippines. And I'm going on, I think, over 9 months now, something like that in the Philippines. So like I said in other videos, when I say things, this isn't just my perspective. This is getting perspective from, like I said, probably hundreds of different expats, expat groups, different forums, things like that, conversations that I've had with lots of friends and foreigners and Filipinas, and my girlfriend is Filipina, so I get her perspective as well as her friends and family members. And so yeah, these aren't things I just kind of pulled out of thin air and came up with these in a vacuum, so to speak, because I've seen comments like that of, well, I haven't been in the Philippines that long to make these conclusions. Well, I beg to differ. I think I have, and I think that talking to as many people as I've talked to here over the 9 months that I've been here gives me more than enough background to kind of make these things. So when I walk up here, it's really pretty. They do these outdoor things, by the way. It's like set up for dinners. It's really pretty. I don't know how much it costs to reserve these things for dinner, but anyway, all right. So what got me thinking about this topic actually was my girlfriend went to get her hair done, and you know, the old saying in the West, in America at least, you know, gossiping like girls at a hair salon, I guess is very true. So they got to talking, and they asked if she had a boyfriend, and she said yes, and is he a foreigner? And she said the first question they asked is, how much is your allowance? And she said, what do you mean, my allowance? And they said, oh, girl, basically, if you're dating a foreigner, you should be getting an allowance. And overwhelmingly, all the girls in there seem to have this idea. These are all Filipinos, of course. They all have this idea that if you're dating a foreigner, he should be giving you an allowance. And a couple of them, and a couple other customers actually, were dating foreigners, and yeah, they were getting allowances. Average seems to be about 10,000 pesos a month, and that's 180, a little less right now because the peso's down. It's about $170, $175, something like that, US, per month. So I'm going to come back to that figure here in a few minutes, but one of the girls made the comment that what's the benefit of dating a foreigner if you're not getting an allowance? Because they have this sort of mindset here that obviously that's one of the big benefits of dating a foreigner, is that we have money, or at least more money than, you know, probably 80% of the population here. So if you're coming over with a pension, Social Security and a pension, a lot of people, or working online, you have some sort of maybe rental properties, whatever. They know these things. Like I said in other videos, just because there's an English barrier a little bit, don't think that these people are uneducated or dumb by any means. And a lot of them are very westernized now, and that's becoming more and more prevalent, the way they think. So let's dive into this a little bit. This happened to a friend of mine. He was talking to a girl for about a week, and he flies her in from a little province in Manila, outside of Manila, far outside of Manila. And he calls me and he says, dude, what do you think of this? I really like this girl and she seems sweet, but she said, I'm ready to move in with you, but if I were to do that, I'm gonna need an allowance. Because this is really common in the Philippines. She said, because my plan was I was gonna get a job and I was gonna send money back to my family. So I was thinking about either going to Manila or maybe Cebu to find better work, because there's not much work in the provinces, right? Very limited work jobs there, and really low paying jobs. So I'm gonna come back to the pay because that's kind of instrumental in this argument here. So he says, what do you think? And I said, well, one, giant red flag, in my opinion. You've known this girl for a week and she's already asking you for money. So that, in my opinion, is an enormous red flag. So, but his logic was, well, if she's really gonna live with me and forego working, I get what she's saying, and she would be sending money back to her parents. I said, okay, let's just play devil's advocate here for a minute. Play dumb and ask her how much she was thinking. So he does, and he calls me back like the next day. And she says, I'm gonna need at least to be able to send 10,000 pesos back to my parents per month. And then I'm gonna need some money, like another 5,000 pesos for my own expenses. And he said, now I'm kind of starting to get a little annoyed because this kind of sounds a little bit like a scam. And like I said, if you're Filipino watching this, you're gonna get your feathers ruffled a little bit by what I'm gonna have to say here, and kind of, I think, the foreigner logic in this. So I said, dude, do the math. We know what people make here. I've talked to so many people from the Philippines, people at actual jobs. I've seen my girlfriend, when we go into stores and she sees a sign, sometimes she does it just out of curiosity, and sometimes I do it. What's the pay for this position? Average pay in Cebu or Bohol is 450 pesos per day, which is less than $9. It's about $8 US per day. Let's just pretend it's a good job and go with 500 pesos a day, right? Do the math. 5 days a week, that's 2,500 pesos per week times 4 weeks in a year, or a month, sorry. That is 10,000 pesos per month. I said, okay, so let's just say she's got a better job, not working at 7-Eleven or whatever, right? Not working at a store, a retail store, and she's making 500 pesos a day. That gives her 10,000 pesos a month. She still has to subtract her own living expenses out of that. Rent, electricity, phone, food, any other expenses she may have, right? Even, and I talked about this in other videos, Filipinos are used to living a lot different than us in the West. So they can live in a boarding house for 5,000 pesos, 3,000 pesos a month in some cases. But let's get this straight, right? Living in a 3,000 peso a month place, not to be mean if you're Filipino watching this, is a total dump compared to what Western standards are used to. We're not gonna live in a one-room place, and a lot of these people share rooms, right? So what I'm saying there is, I said, dude, she's gonna move in with you. You live in a great condo, in a great building. You have great income. So automatically she's stepping into an amazing lifestyle that she would never, ever, ever get working a 450 peso per day job. And then you're supposed to be dumb enough to think that she's gonna have 10,000 pesos per month to send home to her parents. Unless she was getting a job that was about 30,000 pesos per month, which they're out there. Some of the call centers actually make that. Even if she, let's just go with that. Let's just say she's got a great job here in the Philippines and she's making 20 to 30,000 pesos. Maybe, just maybe, she's sending that much money home per month. Very, very, very unlikely. So I said, I would call bullshit on that and tell her, you'd be willing to give, whatever you're willing to do, right? It's your money, it's not my money, it's none of my business really, but you're asking for my advice, so I'm kind of telling you, right? This is the conversation I had, went something like that. And I said, what I would do if you're willing to give any money for this so-called allowance thing, tell her you'll give her 5 or 10,000. What you do with it is totally your business. You want to buy clothes with it, you want to send back all of it to your parents, you want to send back some of it to your parents, you do what you want. Turned out they end up breaking up anyway, not even related to that, but that was definitely a contributing factor, because this is how us in the West think, and maybe Filipinas watching this think very differently. But when you bring up money, and I've said this in another video, and this was advice I got from a Filipina actually. She said, if a girl brings up money in the first 6 months, just run far and fast away from her. This girl's bringing up, what would my allowance be? In the first week, she was at his place for about 3 days and brings that up. So yeah, run fast and run far from those would be my advice. So it gets even a little more bizarre. So one of the girls that my girlfriend had this conversation with was, she said, what's the benefit of dating a foreigner if you're not getting money for it? And of course, my girlfriend says, well, I love them, blah, 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 this and that, the other thing, right? So they kind of almost see that as irrelevant, actually. And they said, yeah, but why don't you just date a Filipino then, if that's the case? So again, if you're a Filipino watching this, you're probably going to get a little bothered by this, but I'm going to just tell it how it is and tell it how I know it to be as a fact here, because like I said, I've been here long enough and I talked to enough people. I know what the standard of living is here in the Philippines for people that work. Unless you have a very good job, doctor, lawyer, something very high paying, high management position, maybe good positions in Manila. I'm talking about the islands of here in Cebu, around Cebu, Bohol, all these province areas, and even in Cebu City. I know what people make, and I know what the standard of living is. So if you're going to date a Filipino guy that's also making 450 to 500 pesos per day, and your combined income between the two of you is 20,000 pesos, just to put that into perspective, my rent is more than that. I probably spend more than that a month. I'm not bragging, but I'm just putting it into perspective for Westerners, how you have to kind of analyze this and dismember that logic that some of these girls seem to have here. Well, what's the benefit? Because what it is bullshit, and they're trying to trick us into thinking, well, what would be the benefit if we're not giving them this extravagant lifestyle? You're giving them an extravagant lifestyle just by the fact that they're not living in a boarding house. They're not sharing a room with another girl or 2 other people, or sharing a house with 6 people. It's really common for people here to live at home until they get married, right? Living in a room with 4 or 5 family members. That's really common here, for them to share bedrooms with multiple people. It's really common to live in boarding houses and places that we would probably honestly not live in. So automatically, by dating a foreigner, they're increasing their lifestyle. Again, I'm not bragging, but for me to go out to breakfast this morning and spend 800 pesos, that is not a big deal to me. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about going to Starbucks. I don't have to worry about, I'm not rich, but I don't have to worry about those little things. For a Filipino, there's lots of videos on there. Look them up if you guys don't believe me. They go around and talk to people on the street and ask them how much money is rich to a Filipino. You'd be shocked. How often can you go treat yourself to Starbucks? They'll tell you. I've seen the interviews, and I know from living here. They're not treating themselves to Starbucks. A 300 peso coffee for 2 people that's a date night. That's a meal. They're not just stopping at Starbucks while you're in the mall. I spent 1,000 pesos in the mall the other weekend, just between Starbucks, or not Starbucks, a coffee shop, ice cream, and just getting some snacks. You talk to Filipinos here, they're not doing that on a regular basis. They're just not. So what I'm saying, guys, listening to this, don't fall for that nonsense of, well, what's the benefit of dating a foreigner? And plus, this has been talked about in other videos, and I've kind of briefly mentioned it. We do have that to our advantage in that we're different, meaning that we look different, we act different, etc. Cultures are a little different, maybe good or bad, but exotic, so to speak. Even though we're from the West, we're exotic to Filipinos. So, and someone made a comment when I talked about the biggest, one of my videos, like I titled it something like the biggest scam in the Philippines, and I kind of talked about this, that one of the scams here is that, I think it's a scam, that they get you to believe that, well, you have to support my family in cases of emergency. And I know there's been a video on this. I don't want to dive down into that much here, but there's been a recent video, one of the big channels here, she talked about that. That's actually a law. If you're married, that's actually a law. And I'll probably do a separate video on that because that's worth addressing. I'm just talking about dating. Just dating. There's no requirement to support anybody's family. There's no dating somebody. Legally here, the laws are a little bizarre when you're married. So I'm just talking about dating. So guys, it's your money. You're all grown people watching this channel, of course. Do what you want with it, of course, right? Some people's mindset is this: well, I can't take it with me when I die. What's the difference if I give somebody X amount of pesos, whatever that budget is? I give that person 10,000, 20,000 pesos. And I've heard guys say it. I've talked to these guys personally. I've heard guys say, dude, what is it? It's $200. $200 to us as Americans or Western people that have maybe one or two sources of income. That's not a lot of money. Again, I'm not trying to sound braggadocious or that I'm rich, but for most Westerners, 10,000 pesos a month isn't a lot of money. So they can afford it, is what I'm saying. So some guys don't mind it. Some guys will say, if that makes her happy, she can go out and buy clothes, get her hair done, whatever she wants to do with it, it's her business. I give my girlfriend that amount of money and they don't sweat it, right? I've heard stories of a lot more than that. And I've also seen girls taking advantage of it. Like I said, guys, a lot of these girls have been westernized in that they see that and they take advantage of it. And then it's, oh, I need new shoes, or I want new shoes, I want this, I want that. And before you know it, your 20,000 peso a month that you were giving your girlfriend turned into 50, 60,000 pesos a month, because she's, every time you go out to a store or the mall, she's buying stuff or ordering crap on Shopee like it's going out of style. So again, you guys are all big boys, but you got to be smart. But do know that it is very, very, very almost expected here. And like I said, sort of what I think about this is, I think, irrelevant to the conversation, but I'm not heartless. And someone made that comment, that's like mean if you wouldn't support somebody's family in an emergency. I'm not heartless, right? But just be aware there's so many scams out there, and there's just as many girls here that would love to take advantage of a guy with a little bit of money, just like there is in your home countries, guys. So don't think for a second, just because I'm coming to the Philippines, there's all these wholesome, wonderful women here that are so naive and would never think to take advantage of a guy. That is far, far, far from the truth. I'm here to tell you, because like I said, I've seen it. I know guys that do it. I know guys that send money. They live back in the States or other countries. I've talked to guys, they sending home back here to the Philippines $400 and $500 US per month to support the girlfriend that they've met on a 1-week vacation. Again, you're a big boy, you do what you want with your money, but in my mind, that's just stupid. That's just dumb. Because a lot of times what this turns out, and I know this for 100% certainty, from talking to Filipinos and talking to my girlfriend and talking to her friends, etc., etc. These girls have other boyfriends. A lot of them have multiple foreign boyfriends, and they're doing that with all their foreign boyfriends. And they also have Filipino boyfriends while their foreign boyfriends are gone. So, and again, that's not all of them. I'm just saying you need to have your radar up, and you need to be smart. And the allowance thing is controversial. And again, I'm not being mean, because part of me does say that, I'm just going to kind of pan this way so you can see the sunsets on the other side of the island this time of the year, but real pretty. Part of me does say that if a girl is giving up a job and moving in with you and is going to have zero income, that of course, it goes without saying almost in my mind that you have to provide for her, right? But you are providing food, you're providing the house, you're providing 100% of their expenses, so they don't have those issues, right? And I'm not some heartless jerk where if somebody needs something, and I'm talking about long-term girlfriend, right? I have no problem buying stuff and doing things and being nice and caring and all those types of things. And if I was with someone for a long period of time and their family member had a verifiable, and strong emphasis on verifiable emergency, and they really needed the money, I would probably do it. But the key to that is verifiable, because like I said, lots of scams. So that's kind of how I approach it. Again, from the not heartless perspective, but don't be a fool either. But just be aware that many of these girls are going to bring that up either quickly or at some point they're going to bring it up. And so you kind of have to be prepared with, I think, of your thought process before that day comes, because it's probably gonna happen. It hasn't happened to me personally. I've been lucky because I have my radar up a little much, so I'm kind of keen to a lot of those scams. So it hasn't happened to me personally, but I know lots and lots of friends and people that I talk to, it happens, like I said, all the time. So just be prepared what you're going to say, how you're going to handle it, what's your wallet and your heart willing to give. Because then you have to ask yourself the question, of course, is this person with me because I give them 10 or 20,000 pesos a month? Or is this person truly with me because they actually love and care about you and want to be with you, right? Because, you know, that's kind of the age-old question, right? When you see giant age gaps, I'll do another video on that because I wanted to address that in a whole separate video, but it obviously ties along with this one, right? Because really unlikely that you see a 70-year-old Filipino guy with a hot 20-year-old Filipino girl. Very unlikely. And if you do, he's probably wealthy by Philippine standards. So yeah, guys, just know that that's definitely a thing. And if you're just dating somebody, you're under no requirement to actually do it. 100% the ball is in your court to do with you what you want with it. Your money, you do you, whatever makes you happy. And yeah, let your heart decide, I guess, ultimately what you want to do with your money. And I guess they're right in some capacity that can't take it with you when you die, right? So live it up, enjoy your life, and hopefully you're watching these videos and doing your research and deciding if this is somewhere you want to come. And I'm real happy here. I love it. This place is about 5 minutes from my house, so I come down here pretty regular at night just to kind of walk around after the gym. Sometimes I'll jog down here, etc. The water's crystal clear, and yeah, enjoying the life here. So, but you just have to be smart, like you do in any country. It's not, like I said, it's not different here in the Philippines, those things. There's still scammers out there, so just be aware of that. All right, guys, like and subscribe, and see you guys.